this is Caelan Huntress, and today I'm reviewing the homepage of randau.co.nz. Dan Randau is a collaboration wrangler, and he's a really good group facilitator in Wellington, New Zealand, and it says right here at the top, he aligns strategy and culture for better results. I'm going to talk about the 4 things I like about this homepage and the 4 things that I would improve. The first thing that I like is this big, wide, full width, full screen, beautiful hero shot. This is Dan in his element. This is him at work. It's not just showing us Dan, it's showing him in a community, and everybody else is kind of faded out in the background, and you could see that he's facilitating. He's obviously got center stage, but he's not speaking into a microphone. So this is a huge part of what he does, is he's actually waiting and listening to other people talking. And this is a really subtle distinction between being the sage on the stage who's just telling everybody things and being able to create the space where the audience can participate. It's a really fine distinction between the two, and I think that this hero shot does a great job of conveying that. So that's the first thing I like about this homepage, is this is just a fantastic hero shot. It's really, really well done. The second thing I like is the clear headline. It's difficult to describe what it is that somebody like Dan does, because it's kind of abstract and maybe even esoteric in terms of organizational management and change and strategy and all this. But it gets right to it. He aligns strategy and culture. And why does he do it? This qualifier at the end, this drives it home for better results. So I think that this deserves all the space that it gets right up here up top, because it's a really distilled, condensed version of describing what it is that Dan does. It's the second thing I like about this homepage. Is a fantastic opening headline. I really like it. The third thing that I like about this homepage is the content sections. It goes from creating better results, positive working relationships, consensus on a clear strategy. It gives more details on the things that the types of people who would hire Dan, these are the problems that they're facing. These are the outcomes that they want to see. And so I love the content on here. It goes into testimonials, blog section. I mean, this is well thought out. All the right content is on this homepage. That's the third thing I like about this homepage, is that it's got all the right content sections. The fourth thing that I like is this standalone meet me for coffee call to action at the end. This is full screen too. Just like the full screen that we saw at the beginning, this big vibrant visual interaction with Dan at work, down here it's just you and Dan. Let's have a coffee together. And I love this ending section, because it's, this could easily be one column in a footer with a whole lot of other things next to it. But instead, it uses this white space on the sides to its advantage, because there's nothing to do when you get all the way to the bottom but make this decision. Am I going to have coffee with this guy? So I've had coffee with him. It's super fun. If you're in Wellington and you haven't had coffee with him, then I highly recommend it. So that's the fourth thing I like about this homepage, is this call to action at the end for coffee. The first thing I would improve about this homepage is I would have some featured images here above the blog posts. In WordPress, it's really easy to do when you specify a featured image, and there are images in these posts. There's no featured ones, or you would see it here above the headline. But you could just easily decide on the back end of WordPress, this is the featured image. And by specifying in WordPress it's the featured image, it would show up at the top of the post, and it would also show in the blog feed above the articles. And while I like the content that has been collected on this homepage, I feel like it's visually not that fun to scroll through, because it's just text, and it's a lot of text to sift through. And so the first thing I would improve is I'd put featured images on each of these posts, so that it's got featured images above each of these sections. The second thing I would improve is I would redesign these testimonials. It's essential nowadays, especially in a business like Dan's. You've got to have social proof on your homepage in the form of testimonials. And it's great that he has them on here, but they're really drab to look at. I think that splitting these into 3 different columns and adding line breaks, so that there's a paragraph section for the testimonial, and then the name of the testimonial giver is on its own line, and the title of what they do is on its own line, and having their headshot A circular headshot in there would you see that so much in design nowadays because it looks so good and it's really easy to do. So I would split these up into columns and just redesign the whole testimonial section. Maybe add in some borders with drop shadows to make it like a breakout box for each one, so that each one kind of holds its own space instead of blending together. So that's the second thing I would improve. The third thing I would improve is I would add in either a background overlay or a text shadow under this headline here at the top. Because I love his job title, Collaboration Wrangler. It's really descriptive of what it is he does, but it's not very legible, at least on my monitor. I've got half of it on white, half of it on black, and this stripe in the middle. Whereas if there was an overlay that was, just the top of the photo or the back of the nav bar, if it was at, half opacity and it was black, then it would make this a lot more legible. Text shadows would also serve this really well. If, there was just a bright white text shadow behind all the text right here, then it would make it pop out without an overlay. So that's the third thing I would improve. The fourth thing that I would improve is in these sections here, I would add in icons or photos to make these sections a little more visually appealing. Creating better results, there's a lot of icon potential there. With these two sections, I would keep it in two columns and I'd have two different sections. I'd have a divider here. I'd keep this on the left and then move this down and keep it on the right, so that I'd have just a big image over here next to positive working relationships that shows some positive working relationships. And then down below, consensus on a clear strategy, the text on the right, and this big image on the left that shows that effect. So that's the fourth thing that I would improve, is I'd add in more icons or photos to support these content sections. So those are the four things that I like and the four things that I would improve about randao.co.nz. If you'd like to have your own homepage reviewed, then there's a link in the description below. See you later.